Albert Einstein, a German-born theoretical physicist famous for developing the theory of relativity, thus revolutionising our understanding of the universe. But today, we're tackling something far more important. What did he actually eat? Early on, Einstein seemed mainly fueled by pipe smoke and the occasional pork roast. But as health concerns caught up with him later in life, he shifted to a vegetarian diet, relying heavily on mushrooms, cheese, eggs and honey. So much honey that it was served in buckets and drizzled over practically anything edible. So grab your jar of honey and let's eat like Albert Einstein. We're kicking off the day with Einstein's unusual breakfast favourite, fried eggs and honey. And I've got a weird suspicion that this is going to be delicious. Start by cutting your bread in half. I went with a sourdough roll as it's quite sturdy and stands up nicely against the runny egg. Next, take the mushrooms and quarter them. Or you could slice them or leave them whole if you're using a smaller variety. It will affect the cooking time slightly, so you may need to adapt. Take the garlic, a little smack to help it come out the skin, just a rough chop ready to go into the grinder. I'll be grinding mine to a fine mince. Look at that, absolutely obliterated. A small-ish bunch of parsley, finely chopped. And of course, honey. I went with acacia, but any runny honey will do. Runny honey. You will also need 2 eggs, but I forgot to record the footage for those. Whoops. And now we're ready to cook. Start by hitting the pan with a little bit of olive oil and give that a bit of time to heat up. Add in the butter. Once the butter is sizzling, go in with the mushrooms, which will take the longest to cook. Add in some salt to help it release its liquid and let it go until you're happy with the colour. After a few minutes, you can go in with the garlic and the parsley, which won't take long, probably about 2 minutes. Once that's done, push it aside to make some room for the bread. You can toast the bread in the same pan. That will make sure it picks up a bit of the flavour, which is always nice. And again, this shouldn't take long. You don't want to burn it. You can set the pan aside, and now we can fry the eggs. Ideally in a non-stick pan. Melt the butter over a medium heat, and once the butter is sizzling, we can crack in the eggs. Salt and pepper to taste, and go in with a tablespoon of honey. I actually wish I added this a bit sooner so that it could caramelize a bit more and pick up a bit of colour. And yeah, after a few minutes we're ready to plate. So bring everything together and generously drizzle the whole lot with honey, mushrooms, eggs, the lot, and dig in. As predicted, it tasted really good. The honey egg sounded a bit strange at first, but it totally makes sense. Fried eggs for breakfast is a classic. Garlic, mushroom, also a traditional pairing, but the sweetness from the honey does take it to another level. I can see why he enjoyed this. I'll definitely start having this more often, and then all I need to do is crack the laws of physics, and me and Einstein are basically the same guy. And with that done, we can start thinking about lunch. And thinking over, for lunch we'll be having a creamy mushroom pasta, very similar to a fettuccine alfredo. I'll refrain from calling it an alfredo just because it contains mushroom, and also I'm using linguine, as weirdly I couldn't find fettuccine in my local supermarket. To make this you'll need some mushrooms, a shallot, garlic, butter, double cream, pecorino romano, parsley, extra virgin olive oil, and linguine, or your pasta of choice. And onto the prep. Chop your shallot as fine as you can. This will speed up the cooking process. Garlic, give it a little bang to help it come out of its skin, and then either mince it or finely chop it. I'll be mincing it in the grinder again. How satisfying is that? And then slice the mushrooms. There's quite a few to get through, but it is probably the easiest thing to chop. Very satisfying, very little resistance. Finally grate the pecorino romano. You're looking for about a third of a cup, but I mean, a bit less, a bit more won't hurt. And finally chop the parsley, bunch it up to make it a bit easier, and then just go over it a few times. Bosh. And that's all the prep there is. Alright, onto the cooking. So you want to add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil into a preheated pan for a medium heat, and once it's hot, add the shallot and slowly let that sizzle away until it breaks down, becomes soft, releases a lot of this liquid. A few minutes. Salt as you go, just to help it along. Once you're happy with the consistency, add the garlic, let that cook for a minute, and then add the butter. Once the butter is melted, go in with all the mushrooms. These will take a bit longer. Again, salt as you go, so add a bit of salt to just help it release the liquid. They will start shrinking, start picking up colour. In a separate pan, throw your pasta in. Make sure to move it about so it doesn't stick together, and then cook it until it's al dente. Mine took 10 minutes, but follow the instructions on your packet. The mushrooms should start looking pretty ready. Keep stirring those, and go in with the parsley. And the crucial bit, reserve at least a cupful of the pasta water, as this will help you control the consistency of the sauce. I like to add a bit of the pasta water at this stage just to scrape up the pan, deglaze it a bit. And after I've deglazed the pan, I add the cream. And I just let it come up to a light boil. You can lower the heat at this point, as things will start thickening up quite quickly. But really, once this is boiling, you're ready to go in with the pasta and start to gently fold all that sauce through the pasta. And at this point, really, you just have to use your judgment and keep adding the pasta water until you're happy with the consistency. Add the cheese. Again, fold all that in and just keep adding the pasta water. And yeah, once you're happy with how it's looking, you're ready to plate. Pile it nice and high. You want a nice mound, which I failed to do. Then add a bit of the sauce, a bit of the mushrooms, and grate a bit more of the cheese over the whole thing. And you're ready to devour. And I went straight in. The important thing with this dish is to really take your time, savor it, small bites, or you can just shove your face into it. But yeah, I mean, what's there not to like here is cream and cheese. I actually much prefer this to just a standard Alfredo. I think the mushroom makes this a lot more interesting, gives it another flavour and texture. Yeah, I did not struggle to finish the plate. Big fan of this. But I'm definitely ready for a nap. E equals MC. I'm off for a nap. Alright, nice and rested, let's get ready for dinner. Einstein loved sandwiches and he loved Gruyere cheese. To me that spells a cheese toastie. So we'll be having a Gruyere and Cheddar cheese toastie with a simple side salad. You will need some Gruyere cheese, some cheddar cheese, sourdough bread, ideally, and butter. To start, take the Gruyere cheese, cut off the rind, and grate it. Then grate the cheddar. You'll want roughly 50-50 of each. Mix the cheese together so that's evenly spread. I won't be using all of the cheese I've grated, just about a cup's worth of the mix. And you're ready to assemble the sandwich. Take the 2 pieces of bread and put about a cup's worth onto one of the slices. Now, optional but not so optional, spread about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard on the top slice and press it down firmly so that the cheese doesn't fall out. Now transfer to a preheated cast iron skillet. It should be a medium heat and the skillet should be dry at this point, no oil or butter. And here you want to just toast the bottom. Now after a few minutes, flip it. Pay attention so that doesn't burn. And now you can apply a thin layer of butter, you really don't need much. Now flip again. And repeat the process. Just a very thin layer of butter. And now you want to keep flipping so that it doesn't burn, but the cheese melts. And now, crucially, for the cheese crust, you want to take a handful of the cheese mixture and spread it onto the pan. And after a few seconds, flip the top side directly onto the cheese and let it sit there for about a minute. Then flip it again and you've got a lovely cheese crust. I'll be serving mine alongside a simple side salad. It's got some mixed greens, tomato, olives, raw onion and cucumber with a simple vinaigrette. And I mean, yeah, it's all about that crust. It really makes a difference. Cut it in half to get a nice look at the cross section and we can plate. Look at that. And now it's time to consume. This isn't my first cheese toastie. If you want something a bit stringier, you can go with just Gruyere or substitute the cheddar for something like Gouda, Edam or even mozzarella. But I do think the sharp cheddar adds a lot of flavour. And it is all about that cheese crust. Honestly, if you haven't done that before, then I highly recommend. And naturally, because this is a Einstein episode and he loved this honey, I had to cover the whole thing with, you guessed it, honey. The sweetness really balances the sharp tang of the cheddar and the nutty Gruyere, and it's just a really addictive, salty sweet contrast. I mean, what can I say? It's science. Delicious. Alright, so that's the final meal. And let's wrap it up with some ratings. On the taste scale, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think a bit of variety and spice, maybe some meat, would probably push up to a 10. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Okay, so authenticity, I'm going to go with a 7. His habits were surprisingly well documented, but I do think the cheese toast is probably a bit of a stretch. I'm also not sure how regularly he would have eaten some of these, as some sources claim he wasn't actually a big eater and would often just eat beans. So this could have been like quite an opulent day for him. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments. Like and subscribe. See you next time.